Welcome. You are listening to Sleepy Historian. Settle where you are. There's no need to focus too closely. Nothing here will move quickly. Nothing here requires urgency. Tonight, we are not following kings or victories. We're standing quietly among people whose names were not kept. People who lived inside long days. People who endured work that did not end when the sun went down, but only paused. Before the Great Pyramid rose into shape. Before the first line of stone cut the horizon. There was waiting. You can imagine the plateau before dawn. The air is cool enough to breathe without effort. The ground is firm, pale, and still. The sky holds no color yet, only a deep, empty gray. You're already awake. Not because you want to be, but because the day requires it. Sleep loosens its grip slowly. Your body knows the pattern now. There is no clock. There is only light, and the promise of heat that will come whether you are ready or not. Around you, others rise quietly. No one speaks more than needed. Voices are saved. Energy is saved. You step forward, not thinking of the end of the day, because the end is too far away to be useful. Instead, you think of smaller things. Your breath, the feel of the ground under your feet, the way the air changes just before the sun appears. The Great Pyramid does not exist yet as a finished shape. It exists as intention, as obligation, as a future that presses gently but constantly against the present. From where you stand, the work site looks endless. Stone lies everywhere, not arranged, not explained, just waiting. This is not a story of sudden suffering. It is a story of steady endurance. No one tells you everything at once. No one needs to. You learn the truth through repetition. You learn that the day will be long. You learn that shade is rare and precious. You learn that water is measured carefully, not because it is scarce, but because it must last. You are not here for glory. You are here because the system requires bodies that can continue. The Nile is not far away, but it might as well be another world. Its rhythms are remembered, not felt. Flood and harvest no longer shape your days. Stone does. As the light grows stronger, you see the scale more clearly. The plateau stretches outward, wide and open. There is nowhere for sound to hide. When tools strike stone later, the noise will carry. For now, there is only wind. You wait for instruction, but instruction comes slowly. Not because no one knows what to do, but because there is time. Time is the true material here. Stone is shaped by it. Bodies are shaped by it. Thoughts are shaped by it. When the work begins, it does not begin dramatically. There is no signal that marks importance. People simply start moving. You fall in a line, not because you are told, but because everyone else does. This is how survival begins in large systems. Not with force, but with alignment. The sun clears the horizon. Its warmth is gentle at first, almost pleasant. You know better than to trust this feeling. As the hours pass, heat will settle into your muscles. It will not attack. It will remain. The pyramid's future shape is discussed by others, far away from here. What you know is simpler. Lift, carry, place, return. Each action costs something small. Over time, those small costs add up. You notice how quickly thirst appears, even in the morning. How the mouth dries without warning. How the body asks for rest long before rest is available. No one complains aloud. Complaints waste breath. Instead, you adjust your pace. You learn to move just slowly enough to last. The stones are heavier than they look, not because of their weight alone, but because they resist being hurried. They do not care about your strength. They respond only to patience. When you pause, it is brief. Long pauses draw attention. Short pauses disappear into the flow of work. Somewhere nearby, someone stumbles. There is no alarm. Others step around him. When he stands again, the work continues. This is not cruelty. It is necessity. The pyramid will not wait for individuals. By midday, the heat becomes unavoidable. It presses downward. The air feels thicker. Your thoughts slow. You stop thinking in sentences. You think in sensations. The grit between your teeth. The ache in your shoulders. The rhythm of steps. You learn where to place your attention so that the day can pass. At times, you look up at the unfinished mass of stone. It does not inspire. It simply exists. This structure is not built quickly. It is built by allowing days to pile on top of each other, the way stones do. No one explains how long this will take. The answer would not help. Weeks, months, years. These words lose meaning when every day feels the same. As evening approaches, the light softens again. Shadows grow longer. The wind returns. Your body is tired in a deep, steady way. Not the kind of tired that asks for rest urgently, but the kind that expects more tomorrow. When work stops, it stops gradually. There is no announcement. People simply slow, then separate. You eat what is given. You drink carefully. You sit or lie down wherever space allows. Conversation is quiet and sparse. Words are unnecessary. Everyone understands the same thing. Tomorrow will arrive. As night settles over the plateau, the unfinished pyramid darkens into a solid silhouette. It does not glow. It does not disappear. It waits. You close your eyes knowing that this place will look the same when you open them again. The stone will still be there. The work will still be waiting. This is how the Great Pyramid begins. Not with ceremony, but with endurance. The call does not arrive suddenly. It comes the way the river recedes, slowly, predictably, without asking. At first, it is only a notice passed from mouth to mouth. Work is needed. Hands are required. The season allows it. You hear this while standing near the edge of your village, where the ground still remembers water. The Nile is nearby. You can smell it in the damp soil and reeds. Life here has a rhythm you understand. Morning, midday, evening, planting, waiting, harvest. The call interrupts nothing at first. It simply exists alongside your days. Those who speak of it do not raise their voices. There is no urgency in their tone. Urgency would suggest choice. You are told where to go. You are told when to leave. You are told what to bring. Not much is required. A body that can continue. Hands that can grip. A willingness to endure heat and repetition. There is no description of the work itself. Only its location. The plateau. The place of stone. You look at the river longer than usual that evening. The water moves steadily, unbothered by human plans. It has always done this. It will continue. When you prepare to leave, the preparation is simple. Few belongings. Nothing heavy. There is no farewell ceremony. No one needs one. You're not the first to go. You will not be the last. The walk away from the river feels longer than it is. Each step carries you into drier ground. The air changes. The smell of water fades. Behind you, life continues. Someone else will tend what you leave. Ahead of you, the land opens and flattens. The sky feels larger. The sun feels closer. Others walk with you. Some you recognize. Some you do not. Conversation is brief. Most of it concerns practical things. Water, pace, rest. No one speculates about return dates. It is understood that return will come when it comes. As the hours pass, your body begins to adjust. You walk more slowly. You conserve. The ground becomes harder underfoot. Dust replaces soil. Your sandals wear thin. By midday, the heat asserts itself. Not aggressively, persistently. You feel it settle along your shoulders and spine. It does not burn. It presses. When you stop to rest, it is in places where shade exists by chance. A low rise. A rock. Another traveler. Water is shared carefully. Not because there is fear, but because there is distance yet to cover. As you move farther from the river, you notice how quiet the land becomes. Fewer birds. Less movement. The silence is not empty. It is wide. When the plateau finally appears, it does not announce itself. It simply rises gradually from the surrounding land. Stone replaces sand. The ground lightens in color. Your eyes narrow against the brightness. This is where the call has been leading you. There is no gate, no boundary, only people. Groups gather and separate with slow efficiency. Those who have been here longer move differently. Their steps are measured, their posture adjusted. They do not look at the stone with curiosity. They look at it the way one looks at weather. You are directed without ceremony. A place to stand, a place to wait. Waiting begins immediately. You stand among others, feeling the heat rise through your feet. You listen to the sound of wind across open ground. No one explains what will happen next. Explanation would require time. Time is reserved for work. Eventually, you're given something small to eat. Enough to continue, not enough to linger. The sun climbs. The shadows shrink. You notice how quickly the body begins to calculate effort. Which movements matter, which do not. A name is called, not yours. Someone steps forward. Others remain. When your name comes, it does not sound different. It does not carry meaning beyond identification. You step forward. There is no oath, no promise, only instruction. Lift when told. Move when told. Stop when told. You are shown the path stones will take. From ground to ground, over and over. The stones are close enough to touch, but not yet yours to move. They rest in place, patient. You feel the weight of what is ahead, not as fear, but as duration. This will take time, a great deal of it. As the afternoon wanes, you are allowed to sit. The ground is hard, but rest does not ask for comfort. You look out across the plateau. The unfinished space stretches farther than you expected. Somewhere beyond it, plans exist. Designs, measurements. Here, there's only labor. When evening arrives, it does so gently. The heat releases its hold slowly. You eat again. You drink again. Sleep comes easily, not because you are calm, but because the body has spent what it can spend. As you lie on the ground, the sky opens above you. Stars appear without ceremony. You think briefly of the river, of water moving in the dark. Then the thought fades. Tomorrow will not ask where you came from. It will ask only whether you can continue. This is how the call to work completes itself. Not by force, but by distance. Arrival does not feel like an event. It feels like a pause that lasts longer than expected. You are already on the plateau when you realize you have stopped walking. The ground beneath you is pale and hard, reflecting light upward into your eyes. There is no clear boundary marking where the journey ends and the work begins. People move around you with slow familiarity. They know where to go without asking. You do not. The space feels wide in every direction, not empty, but open in a way that makes distance difficult to judge. Stone lies scattered across the surface, some shaped, some untouched, all waiting. Wind passes freely here. It carries dust and the faint sound of tools striking far away. The sound is not sharp. It is dull, repetitive, steady. You are directed to stand in a line that is not straight. It curves slightly, following the uneven ground. No one corrects it. Standing still here feels different than standing at home. The sun reaches you without obstruction. There are no trees, no walls. You feel the heat build along your neck and shoulders even while you do nothing. The body begins working before work begins. Water is offered in small measures. Enough to wet the mouth. Enough to remind you to be careful. Around you, others adjust their footing. Some sit briefly. Others remain standing, conserving energy for what is coming. No one raises their voice. Orders travel short distances. They do not need to go far. From where you stand, you can see the early foundation lines laid out on the ground. They do not yet resemble a pyramid. They resemble patience. Stone blocks rest nearby, close enough to touch. Their surfaces are rough and warm. They hold heat even in the morning. You place your hand on one briefly, not because you are told to, because it is there. The stone does not respond. It never will. Time stretches here. Minutes lose their edges. You wait for your assignment. Waiting becomes the first task. As the sun climbs higher, the plateau grows brighter. The light reflects from every surface. There is no place for the eyes to rest. Somewhere in the distance, a group begins moving stone. Their rhythm is slow and coordinated. It is not impressive. It is effective. You notice how much space exists between groups. Not because of order, but because of heat. Bodies require room. When your turn comes, it comes quietly. A gesture, a short instruction. You are placed among others who arrived with you. Your unfamiliarity is shared. This brings no comfort, but it reduces attention. The work assigned to you is simple in description. Move stone from one place to another. Return. Repeat. No mention is made of how long this will continue. The stone is heavier than expected, even when many hands are involved. It resists lifting, not aggressively, reluctantly. You feel the strain immediately. Not pain, pressure. The first movement is awkward. Feet adjust. Hands slip slightly on the rough surface. Someone nearby breathes heavily. Another coughs once, then steadies. The stone shifts. It leaves the ground reluctantly. For a moment, it seems to float. Then gravity reminds you of itself. The distance is short, only a few dozen steps. By the time you reach the end, your arms already feel changed. You set the stone down, not gently, carefully. There is no acknowledgement, no correction. You turn and walk back. This pattern repeats. Each repetition smooths the movement slightly. Not easier, more efficient. You learn how to place your hands so the edge does not bite as sharply. You learn how to breathe while lifting. The sun continues its steady climb. Heat settles deeper into the body. Sweat forms and dries quickly, leaving salt behind. Your mouth tastes of dust. Water is offered again, briefly. Not enough to satisfy. Enough to continue. You begin to understand the scale not by looking, but by feeling. The amount of stone is not overwhelming in a single moment. It becomes overwhelming over time. You look up occasionally, scanning the horizon. There is no landmark to measure progress against. The plateau remains unchanged. As the hours pass, sound becomes simpler. Breathing, footsteps, stone scraping stone. Voices are rare. When they appear, they are practical. A warning, a correction. You notice someone stumble under the weight. The stone lowers. Hands adjust. The movement continues. No one stops entirely. By midday, the heat is no longer something you notice consciously. It becomes the background of every thought. The body narrows its focus. Lift, step, place. Time stretches further. When a break comes, it is brief. You sit where you are. The ground is warm. Shade exists only where bodies create it. You eat without appetite. Food is fuel now, not pleasure. As the afternoon light begins to shift, the work does not change. Only your perception of it does. Each movement requires more attention. Mistakes feel closer. The stone does not care. When the signal to stop finally arrives, it is subtle. Movement slows. Groups dissolve. You step away from the stone, hands tingling. Your arms feel heavier than they did in the morning. You drink again, carefully. The water feels thin and precious. As evening approaches, the plateau cools slightly. The wind returns. You look across the site one more time. Nothing appears different. The stone you moved blends into everything else. This is not discouraging. It is simply the truth. As you settle for the night, the ground hard beneath you, you realize that arrival did not change your life all at once. It changed it quietly. Tomorrow will begin here. And the day after that. The plateau does not release those who come to it quickly. It absorbs them slowly. You do not learn the rules all at once. They are not spoken aloud. They reveal themselves slowly through consequence. On the plateau, survival is not dramatic. It is practical. The first rule becomes clear within days. Energy must be saved before it is spent. You learn this when you see others moving less than you expect. Their steps are smaller. Their gestures contained. They're not weaker. They're experienced. Food arrives at regular times. The portions are measured. Enough to maintain motion. Never enough to restore what the day has taken. You eat quietly. Not because silence is required, but because talking costs breath. You chew slowly. You swallow carefully. Hunger does not arrive sharply. It settles in and stays. Water is more carefully managed. You are given amounts, not freedom. Not as punishment, as necessity. You learn to drink in stages. A small mouthful. Pause. Another. Those who drink too quickly regret it later. Thirst returns sooner than expected. Shade becomes currency. Not owned. Borrowed. A shadow cast by a wall of stone is enough to gather bodies. People arrange themselves without speaking. No one pushes. When a shadow moves, so do you. Sleep follows its own rules. The ground is hard. You adjust your body to it, not the other way around. At first, you shift often. Later, you do not. Sleep is shallow but reliable. The body claims it when it can. Dreams are brief, often unfinished. Morning arrives without mercy. The sun does not wait for rest to feel complete. You rise before heat becomes heavy. This is another rule. Work begins early, not to be efficient, but to be possible. As days pass, you notice small changes in yourself. Your hands thicken. Your shoulders ache constantly, not sharply. Pain becomes a background presence, ignored not through bravery, but through familiarity. You learn where to place your feet on uneven stone, where slipping costs more energy than it saves. You learn how to grip without tearing skin unnecessarily, how to release weight smoothly. These lessons are learned by watching, and by failing briefly. Someone lifts incorrectly and must rest longer. Someone rushes and breathes too hard. The plateau corrects behavior gently, but consistently. You learn to pace yourself against the slowest part of the day, not the fastest. If you spend too much in the morning, the afternoon will take more. This rule matters. Conversation changes. At first, people speak of home, of the river, of familiar things. Later, they speak of practical matters only. Tools, water, shade. Eventually, words become rare. Silence does not feel awkward here. It feels efficient. You begin to recognize the sounds that matter. The scrape of stone that signals a shift. The breathing of those lifting beside you. Other sounds fade into insignificance. Names begin to disappear quietly. Not announced, not explained. A space in a line remains empty one morning. Work adjusts. No one asks questions that cannot be answered. This is another rule. Do not dwell on absence. The body must continue. Time behaves strangely. Days feel long. Weeks feel indistinct. There is no marker to count progress by. The pyramid grows, but too slowly to notice. Instead, you measure time by exhaustion patterns, by how early fatigue arrives, by how long it lingers. The heat teaches you restraint. The sun punishes excess. You learn to rest without guilt. Short pauses, deep breaths. You learn to stand still without tension. The plateau rewards those who blend into its rhythm. Clothing changes as well. Linen darkens with sweat and dust. It stiffens. You stop noticing how you look. There is no mirror here that matters. Food loses flavor. Water loses satisfaction. Both remain necessary. You begin to recognize the long middle of the day as the hardest part. Morning has promise. Evening has release. Midday simply endures. This is when thoughts narrow, when focus shrinks to the next movement. Lift, step, set down. When mistakes happen, they are handled without emotion. Stone dropped is stone replaced. Time lost is absorbed by the next hour. There is no punishment. The work itself is enough. As weeks pass, you stop feeling new. The plateau no longer observes you. You are part of it now. The rules are internal. You do not think of them. You act within them. By the time you realize you have learned how to survive here, survival has already become routine. This is the quiet danger. Because once survival feels normal, it is difficult to imagine leaving. After enough days have passed, the work stops feeling new. Not because it has become easy, but because novelty has been removed. You wake before light without effort. The body has learned the schedule and no longer resists it. Sleep loosens at the same hour each morning, shallow and compliant. When you stand, there is no hesitation. You do not test your limbs. You already know how they feel. Stiff, serviceable. The air before sunrise is briefly forgiving, cool enough to breathe deeply. You take advantage of this without thinking. Others move around you, silhouettes against the dim sky. No greetings are exchanged. None are needed. By the time the sun appears, you're already working. The movement is familiar now. Lift, step, set down, return. There is no sense of beginning or ending. The cycle continues until the body signals otherwise. At first, repetition felt like something to endure. Now, it feels like the condition of existence. The stone does not change. The path does not change. Your role does not change. You stop looking for signs of progress. The pyramid's outline grows too slowly to measure. To search for improvement is to invite frustration. Instead, you focus on consistency. You place your hands in the same positions each time. Your feet follow a practice pattern across the ground. Your breathing settles into a rhythm that matches the load. The heat arrives earlier now. Perhaps it always did. You simply notice it sooner. Sweat appears with the first effort. It no longer surprises you. You learn how to let it happen without reacting. Reacting wastes energy. Around you, the same faces appear each morning. Some look thinner. Some move more slowly. These changes are not discussed. The plateau does not reward observation. It rewards adaptation. Hours pass without distinction. Morning and late morning blur together. There are no markers to break the time apart. No bells. No announcements. Only the steady rhythm of work. You begin to understand that progress here is not visible. It is internal. The body learns to carry weight without protest. The mind learns to narrow its focus. This is how you survive the long middle. At midday, the heat presses down fully. The air feels heavy and unmoving. Stone radiates warmth back into your hands and arms. There is no cool surface left. Water is rationed carefully. The taste is familiar and unsatisfying. You drink just enough to continue. The thirst never fully leaves. During the brief rest, you sit without slumping. Slumping makes standing again harder. You watch the ground instead of the sky. The sky offers nothing useful. When work resumes, it does so without ceremony. No one counts the break. Everyone feels when it ends. The repetition continues. At some point, the mind begins to drift, not away from the task, but inward. Thoughts become simpler. You think of pressure, balance, timing. You stop thinking in words. The stone is placed. Another waits. You return to the starting point, not noticing the distance. Your body covers it automatically. There's a strange comfort in this. Not peace. Familiarity. The lack of progress becomes its own stability. Nothing is getting worse quickly. Nothing is getting better. This flatness stretches time. Occasionally, someone drops a stone. The sound is dull and heavy. The moment passes. The stone is repositioned. There is no outburst, no reprimand. The work absorbs mistakes the way the ground absorbs footprints. You notice that your hands have begun to move before your thoughts catch up. Muscle memory leads. The mind follows. Fatigue is present, but it is evenly distributed. No single muscle complains loudly. This is another lesson. Spread the effort. Avoid sharp exhaustion. As the afternoon progresses, the light shifts slightly. Shadows lengthen just enough to be noticed. This is the only change. You do not look toward the edge of the plateau anymore. There is no reference point there that matters. The world has narrowed to stone, ground, and bodies. When the day finally eases toward evening, it does so gradually. Movement slows almost imperceptibly. The body senses release before instruction arrives. When you stop, it feels less like permission and more like inevitability. You step away from the stone, arms heavy, fingers tingling. The sensation is familiar. You drink again. You eat again. There is no conversation about what was accomplished. Nothing measurable was. The pyramid stands as it did this morning, only marginally altered. You lie down on the hard ground as darkness settles. The body sinks into fatigue without resistance. As sleep approaches, there is no anticipation of tomorrow. No dread. No hope. Only continuation. Repetition without progress is not a failure here. It is the method, and once accepted, it becomes survivable. The heat no longer announces itself. It is simply there when you wake. Even before the sun clears the horizon, the air feels heavier than it once did. Not hot yet. Dense. You breathe carefully, conserving moisture without thinking about it. The body has learned this skill on its own. As light spreads across the plateau, the stone brightens quickly. Pale surfaces reflect the sun upward, trapping warmth between ground and sky. By the time work begins, the heat has already settled into the day. You lift the first stone with muscles that are still tired from yesterday. They respond anyway. There is no sensation of recovery anymore. Only continuation. Sweat appears quickly. It runs along familiar paths down your arms and spine. You do not wipe it away. Wiping wastes motion. Thirst follows soon after. Not sharp. Persistent. The mouth dries. The tongue thickens slightly. You know the feeling well. Water is offered later than you would prefer. Earlier than you would expect. You drink in small measured amounts. letting each mouthful linger. The relief is brief. The work continues unchanged. As the sun climbs higher, the air becomes still. Wind withdraws, leaving the heat to settle fully. Sound carries farther in this stillness. Breathing, footsteps, the dull scrape of stone. Each sound feels heavier. Time begins to stretch in a particular way. Minutes feel longer. Hours lose shape. You stop checking the position of the sun. It does not help. Instead, you measure time by thirst, by the ache in your shoulders, by the heaviness in your legs. Midday arrives without ceremony. The heat reaches its full presence. The stone is warm to the touch now, almost hot. You adjust your grip to avoid lingering contact. Your hands move quickly and precisely, guided by experience rather than comfort. Sweat dries almost as soon as it forms. Salt collects on skin and cloth. Your clothing stiffens. Water arrives again, the same amount as before. You drink slowly, resisting the urge to empty it all at once. You know better now. The thirst does not disappear. It settles into a dull background sensation. This is the plateau's way. Nothing is fully resolved. During the brief rest, you sit upright. Lying down would cost too much effort to reverse. Shade is minimal. A few stones cast narrow strips of shadow. Bodies arrange themselves carefully within them. No one stays long. When work resumes, the body resists slightly. The first lift feels heavier than it should. You push through without forcing. Forcing leads to mistakes. The afternoon stretches out ahead, wide and unbroken. You focus on small efficiencies. Shorter steps, better balance. You let the stone rest against your leg for half a breath before lifting fully. These small adjustments matter. Around you, others do the same. The heat presses continuously. It does not spike. It does not relent. This constancy is its own challenge. You begin to feel the edges of fatigue in unexpected places. Behind the eyes, along the jaw, your thoughts slow further. You no longer imagine relief. Imagination costs energy. Instead, you stay with the present movement. Lift, step, place. Sometimes, the stone feels heavier than usual. Not because it is, but because you are. You adjust your pace slightly. No one comments. This is another unspoken rule. Survival is individual, but rhythm is shared. As the afternoon wears on, the light shifts subtly. The color of the ground deepens. Shadows lengthen almost imperceptibly. This is the only sign that time is passing. You drink again near the end of the day. The water tastes warm now. It is still welcome. When a signal to stop arrives, it feels almost accidental. Movement slows. Stones are set down carefully. The heat lingers even as the sun lowers. The ground releases warmth slowly. Your body feels hollowed out. Not weak, spent. You eat with little interest. Food is necessary, not comforting. As night approaches, the air cools slightly. The first breeze of the day brushes across your skin. It feels unfamiliar. You lie down where you are told. The ground is still warm beneath you. Sleep arrives in stages. Brief wakefulness, then release. Thirst follows you into sleep, a muted presence. Tomorrow, it will return. The heat will be there when you wake. So will the stone. Time will stretch again, and you will continue. The cost does not arrive as a single moment. It accumulates. You begin to notice it in the small things first. The way your hands take longer to loosen in the morning. The way your back straightens more slowly. Nothing feels injured. Everything feels used. The body does not complain loudly. It simply resists slightly more each day. When you wake, there's a brief hesitation before movement begins. Not because of pain, but because effort must be gathered. You stand anyway. Work resumes without variation. The stone waits where it always has. At first, fatigue was something you felt at the end of the day. Now it is present from the beginning. You carry it with you, adjusting around it. Your grip is still strong, but it requires attention. You focus on keeping your fingers aligned properly. Skin hardens and cracks in places. You stop noticing the small cuts. They close on their own. Sweat behaves differently now. It appears later. It dries faster. Your body has learned restraint. Hunger changes as well. It no longer arrives sharply. It remains constant. Food fills the stomach briefly, but does not restore energy. You eat anyway. Sleep deepens slightly, but becomes shorter. You wake before rest feels complete. Dreams are rare. When they appear, they are fragments. Stone, heat, movement. You notice changes in others more easily than in yourself. Someone limps slightly, then less so, as they adjust their gait. Someone else moves one step slower than before. No one comments. A space in the work line opens one morning and remains open. The stone that would have been lifted there is moved by others. This redistribution is silent. The work does not pause. You begin to understand that endurance here is not about strength. It is about avoiding sharp decline. Those who push too hard do not last. Those who move carefully continue. This realization shapes every choice. You learn to recognize the difference between discomfort and damage. Discomfort can be endured. Damage must be avoided. This knowledge is practical, not philosophical. The plateau teaches it relentlessly. As days pass, your sense of time becomes even flatter. Weeks pass without distinction. You stop trying to remember how long you have been here. The answer no longer matters. Your world has condensed. Stone, ground, heat, bodies. The pyramid grows invisibly. You know this intellectually. You cannot feel it. Instead, you feel the accumulation within yourself. Your shoulders sit slightly lower. Your movements are smoother, but slower. Efficiency replaces speed. Water remains precious. You sit more slowly now than you did before. Thirst is never gone. It has become part of your internal landscape. When you rest, you do so without fully relaxing. Complete relaxation makes starting again harder. You stay ready. At midday, the heat presses as it always has. It feels neither worse nor better. The difference is how you receive it. You accept it. Resistance wastes energy. Occasionally, a mistake happens. A grip slips. A foot slides on loose stone. Recovery is quick and controlled. You do not react emotionally. Emotion disrupts rhythm. You notice that laughter has disappeared, not because of sadness, but because of focus. Conversation is minimal. Words are reserved for necessity. Silence fills the space between movements. This silence is not peaceful. It is functional. When the day ends, it does so quietly. The body knows before instruction arrives. You eat. You drink. You lie down. As you settle, you feel the dull ache spread evenly through your body. It does not concentrate anywhere. This uniformity makes it manageable. Sleep arrives without ceremony. The next morning, the cycle repeats. The slow cost continues to accumulate, layer by layer. Not enough to stop you. Enough to change you. You understand now that survival here is not about reaching an end. It is about avoiding an end. The plateau does not demand heroism. It demands sustainability. And so you continue. At some point, time stops behaving the way it once did. There is no moment when this change announces itself. You simply realize one day that you are no longer counting. The difference between one morning and the next has narrowed to almost nothing. Light appears. You stand. Work begins. The body remembers the sequence without assistance. You do not recall how many days you have been here. The thought occurs briefly, then passes. Knowing would not change anything. The sun rises and sets as it always has. What has changed is how you receive it. Morning is no longer a beginning. It is a continuation. The cool air before dawn lasts only a short while. You notice it less now. Work starts before the light fully arrives. Silhouettes move across pale ground. Stone waits where it always waits. As the day unfolds, you do not track its progress. You feel it instead. Heat increases. Thirst deepens. Fatigue settles. These sensations replace clocks. You notice that memories from before the plateau feel distant. Not emotionally, but structurally. They belong to a different rhythm. Here, time is circular. Lift, step, place, return. The repetition does not feel oppressive. It feels neutral. Thoughts of the future become abstract. You assume tomorrow will resemble today. This assumption is correct. At midday, you sit briefly and do not consider how long the rest lasts. You stand when movement resumes. The lack of measurement makes the day feel both endless and short. Hours stretch, weeks compress. You lose track of how long you have known the people beside you. They have always been there. Faces age subtly, but without reference points. You do not notice change until it is already complete. The pyramid grows, but not in a way you can see from where you stand. It grows beyond your perception. This invisibility affects your sense of purpose. Not negatively, quietly. You stop expecting completion. Instead, you focus on maintenance of your body, of your pace. You learn to recognize the early signs of overexertion, the slight tremor in the arms, the dull pressure behind the eyes. You adjust before these signs develop further. This attention to the present moment becomes constant. The past fades, the future flattens. Time becomes a single, extended interval. Sometimes, during work, your thoughts drift without direction, not to specific memories, but to sensations. The feeling of water on skin, the weight of stone, the sound of wind. These sensations repeat often enough to become familiar companions. Silence stretches between movements. You find it no longer uncomfortable. Conversation feels unnecessary. When someone speaks, the sound feels slightly intrusive. It breaks the rhythm. Names matter less. Positions matter more. You know where someone stands in the work line. You know their pace. This knowledge is practical. The day continues without markers. When someone is absent, you notice only because the rhythm shifts. The gap is filled quickly. No explanation is offered. You understand without being told. Evenings arrive quietly. The light softens. The heat releases its grip. You eat. You drink. Sleep comes without reflection. When you wake, there is no sense of how long you have slept, only that you have. The cycle resumes. At some point, you realize that you no longer anticipate rest. Rest simply happens. You no longer dread work. Work simply exists. This neutrality is not peace. It is adaptation. Time, once something that moved forward, now feels suspended, not stopped, stretched. The plateau holds you within this stretch. Days pass, or perhaps they blend. You cannot say for certain. What you know is this. The work continues. You continue, and the distinction between the two grows thinner. As days and weeks blur together, your mind begins to shrink its focus. It does not collapse. It does not panic. It narrows. The narrowing is gradual, almost imperceptible. You do not notice the edges retreating until they are already gone. Thoughts of the distant river fade. Memories of home become like objects behind glass, visible, yet untouchable. You do not dwell on them. You cannot. The plateau demands attention. Lift, step, place, repeat. You notice that your mental bandwidth is most efficient when dedicated to the immediate. Everything else becomes unnecessary. When you speak, it is for practical reasons. The path of a stone, the alignment of a block, the timing of a rest. Words for comfort or memory fall away. You remember how to speak only when needed. Silence, once uncomfortable, now feels right. It occupies space where excess thought used to live. You notice your awareness of the passage of time has decreased. You no longer imagine days or weeks. You perceive only this moment and the next. The body guides your actions, and the mind follows. Not blindly, efficiently. Pain or fatigue is observed, measured, then acted upon. No energy is wasted on speculation. Hunger and thirst are present, but only as variables in calculations. How much can I carry without pause? How far can I walk before water? How long before shade? These are the questions that matter. Nothing else penetrates the mental field. You notice that the edges of conversation shrink. Even greetings are delayed. Acknowledgement is brief. The plateau rewards brevity. When you lift a block, your focus is complete. There is no wandering thought. The weight, the position, the placement, all that exists. Errors are immediately corrected. You do not linger on the mistake. There's no time. Your mind begins to anticipate movement before the body executes it. You no longer plan in words. You act. This narrowing makes time feel heavier. Moments stretch and carry more weight. You become acutely aware of small changes in your own condition. the way your grip shifts, the angle of your foot, the precise tension in your back. Each adjustment is automatic. Each small inefficiency avoided. Sleep becomes more rhythmic. Dreams fade entirely. The body rests. The mind rests within its narrowed scope. At midday, when the sun presses down and the plateau radiates heat, your mind becomes almost empty. Not bored. Focused. Movement continues. Repetition continues. Around you, the same narrowing is occurring in others. Silently. Without discussion. It is subtle. Unremarked. Necessary. This mental compression protects energy. Protects attention. Allows endurance without collapse. When fatigue is severe, you notice only the requirement for rest. No complaint. No reflection. Even as days blend, the work continues. The pyramid grows slowly, almost imperceptibly. Your understanding of scale is now bodily, not visual. Distance is measured in steps, not cubits. Time is measured in lifts, not hours. You begin to anticipate the plateau itself, its demands, its rhythm, the way heat accumulates, the way stones resist. Your thoughts have been distilled into their essential elements. Survival, motion, observation, all else has receded. By evening, when shadows stretch and the wind returns slightly, the narrowed mind continues without reflection. No plan, no hope, no longing, only attention. The plateau is no longer just a place of work. It is a place of thought reduction, efficiency, concentration. Sleep comes quietly. You do not dream. The mind rests in its narrowed form, ready for the next day. Tomorrow will bring the same repetition, the same heat, the same stones, and you will endure. Over time, names begin to disappear. It is not dramatic. No announcement. No absence is mourned loudly. One morning, a space opens in the line. A worker is gone. No one questions why. The stone does not wait. The rhythm does not pause. You notice the absence only because your own movement feels slightly different. The weight that was once distributed among several bodies is now slightly altered. The step requires a fraction more effort. The grip must adjust. The plateau accepts these changes silently. It does not comment. It does not judge. Others continue without hesitation. No stories are told of those who no longer answer. Their absence is noted only in small shifts of rhythm. You carry on. The body adjusts. The mind narrows further. Food is taken as always. Water is rationed as always. Stone is lifted, carried, and set down as always. Time stretches. The pyramid grows imperceptibly. Your awareness is compressed to the work immediately at hand. You do not dwell on the absent. You cannot. To do so would consume energy better spent elsewhere. Sometimes a new worker appears. You notice their unfamiliarity briefly. Then, like you, they become part of the rhythm. Movement smooths over the interruption. Absence is constant. Presence is temporary. The plateau has no memory. It does not record who is here or who is gone. It only knows the motion. You notice patterns of endurance in those who remain. Small adjustments, quiet efficiency. These behaviors are copied unconsciously. You understand that survival is not measured by strength. It is measured by adaptation. The mind contracts further, conserving focus for essentials. Lifting, placing, returning, breathing, adjusting. Everything else is incidental. The absence of others is absorbed, not mourned, not marked. Even conversation becomes a tool rather than an exchange. Words are for efficiency, directions, corrections. Emotion fades from communication, not because you have stopped feeling, but because feeling is a liability. The plateau enforces this quietly. Time continues without pause. Evenings arrive gently, carrying with them the residual heat of the day. You eat mechanically. You drink deliberately. You lie down and sleep lightly. When you wake, the absence is still there. The space remains. You move as though nothing has changed. The pyramid grows slowly, almost invisibly. It is indifferent to who remains and who is gone. Your body carries on. The rhythm persists. You begin to notice your own changes only in comparison to the plateau. Hands tougher, arms steadier, back straighter but heavier. breath regulated automatically. The cost of endurance accumulates quietly. Fatigue, hunger, and heat settle as background companions. You accept them without thought. Names may be gone, faces may fade, but the work persists. This knowledge does not unsettle you. It is simply part of the plateau. Sleep comes as always. Dreams are rare. The body rests. The mind narrows to essentials. Morning arrives. The cycle continues. You rise and resume work without reflection. Lift, step, place, return. The absence has become part of the rhythm. You no longer distinguish between those present and those gone. All that matters is the motion. In this way, the plateau maintains itself. It does not require attention. It does not reward remembrance. It only demands endurance. And you endure. Seasons arrive quietly on the plateau. You notice them not through celebration, but through the subtle shifts in heat and light. The sun climbs slightly higher in the sky over the weeks. Its glare is sharper, reflecting off the pale stone ground with greater intensity. The air carries less moisture. Dust lingers longer. Yet the work continues unchanged. Lift, step, place, return. The body has learned the pattern. The mind has learned the focus. The plateau remains indifferent to the passage of time. Heat in mid-morning now presses differently against your skin. Sweat forms sooner. Clothing darkens with effort more quickly. You adjust instinctively. Hands grip stone slightly differently. Feet shift subtly to avoid slipping. The plateau teaches these lessons without words. You notice them through sensation alone. Shadows change with the angle of the sun. Shorter in midday, longer toward evening, but nothing else changes. The pyramid grows slowly, almost imperceptibly. No sudden steps forward, no dramatic milestones. Water becomes scarcer in your perception, not because it is less, but because your body adjusts to the rhythm of thirst and ration. Food tastes increasingly bland. It satisfies, but no longer comforts. The plateau does not reward appetite. It rewards presence. You notice others moving more deliberately. Some pause longer in shade. Some adjust their pace to accommodate heat or fatigue. These behaviors are quietly mirrored. No conversation is needed. Time seems to stretch and compress simultaneously. The morning is long. The afternoon is weighty. Evening arrives almost without recognition. Sleep is light. Your body seeks it without reflection. Dreams are rare and fleeting. The plateau enforces patience. With each cycle of days, you sense the subtle effect of repetition on your endurance. Muscles adapt. Joints conserve energy. Breath becomes measured. Yet, the cost continues to accumulate slowly. Hands crack. Back stiffens. Energy diminishes slightly. You adjust naturally. The body compensates. The mind narrows to essentials. Each day blends into the next. You no longer distinguish the turning of months. The pyramid grows as it always has. The stones move imperceptibly closer to one another. The pattern repeats without drama. Wind shifts subtly. Dust settles in new places. Heat rises differently. The mind notes these changes only to adjust, not to reflect. Small errors are corrected immediately. No pause is permitted. Efficiency is the measure of survival. You recognize the seasonal shifts through sensation alone, not through observation. The plateau itself is your calendar. Food and water schedules remain unchanged. Rationing continues to dictate action. Your attention remains limited to what is immediately necessary. The line of work persists. Workers move stones in the same rhythm. Some are absent. Some are replaced. The rhythm is uninterrupted. The plateau absorbs all changes silently. Evenings bring slight relief. Cool air brushes against skin. The ground slowly releases stored heat. You rest lightly. The mind remains narrowed. The body prepares for the next repetition. There is no celebration of seasonal progress. No marking of milestones. Only endurance continues. And so the plateau cycles through seasons. Time stretches. Labor persists. The pyramid grows quietly, steadily. You endure. You continue. The plateau teaches patience in ways you do not anticipate. You stand for long stretches holding stone, adjusting posture, breathing shallowly. Movement is deliberate. Time feels heavier than it should. You wait without knowing what for. Nothing arrives. Nothing changes. Yet the pause itself is a demand. The sun arcs across the sky. Its heat is constant. The wind, when it comes, moves slowly. It disturbs dust and sand with almost imperceptible force. Your hands begin to ache from holding the stone. Your shoulders protest faintly. You adjust without complaint. The body knows what is required. The mind follows. Around you, others perform the same waiting. No one speaks. All movements are economical. Efficiency dominates silence. You notice subtle differences each day. A stone may be slightly warmer. A shadow may shift minutely. A colleague's rhythm may lag by a fraction. These small changes demand attention, even when nothing else does. You wait for moments that may never arrive. Rest periods are brief. Shade is transient. Water is rationed. This type of waiting is exhausting. Not physically, but mentally. Energy is consumed quietly, invisibly. Yet, in the stillness, your body adapts. Muscles maintain tension without strain. Breath remains steady. Feet adjust automatically. You do not reflect on the passage of days. The calendar is irrelevant. The plateau has its own measure. Time is indicated only by heat, shadow, and fatigue. The mind narrows further. Thoughts shrink to essentials. Position of stone. Balance. Next step. Breath. Everything else recedes. When you pause, it is a calculated decision. Even sitting in shade carries purpose. You do not lie down fully. Lying requires more energy to resume work. Movement resumes as if nothing happened. Lift. Step. Place. Return. The plateau enforces this rhythm. It does not reward speculation. It does not allow imagination. Waiting becomes a skill, not in anticipation of reward, but in endurance of stasis. Even conversation dwindles further. Words are used only when essential. Instructions, corrections, emotion, though present, is minimized automatically. It is too costly. As the sun lowers toward evening, shadows lengthen slowly. The relief of cooler air is subtle. You notice it but do not pause unnecessarily. Dinner arrives. You eat mechanically. Water follows the same measured pattern. Sleep comes lightly. The mind has fewer stray thoughts than before. Dreams are absent or fragmented. When you wake, you find the plateau unchanged. The stones remain. The rhythm continues. The waiting resumes. You realize that survival is sustained less by action than by quiet endurance. It is the capacity to remain present without expectation, to endure the monotony, to survive without immediate purpose. And so you continue. By now, your body has learned restraint. Movements are deliberate. Each lift of stone, each step across the plateau, is calculated for efficiency. Energy is preserved, not hoarded, but allocated precisely. You notice the slight tremor in your hands if you overreach. You sense the heat pressing differently against your skin with subtle shifts in sunlight. You adjust automatically without thought. The rhythm of labor is continuous, but moderated. You no longer push for speed. Speed consumes energy. It is unnecessary here. You notice the effects of days blending into weeks, weeks into months. Fatigue is constant, but it is evenly distributed. Hunger is always present, but measured. Thirst lingers quietly. The plateau stretches time. The sun rises and falls. Shadows lengthen. Wind shifts subtly. Nothing else changes. The stones are heavy. They do not relent. You do not resent them. You accommodate them. The mind continues to narrow. Thoughts remain practical. Lift, step, place, return. Observation is continuous. You notice the weight of each stone, the temperature of the ground, the subtle rhythm of colleagues' movements. Every sensation is noted. Nothing is wasted. When rest is permitted, it is brief. You do not lie fully. You sit upright. Muscles maintain tension. Breath remains steady. Even in pause, the plateau requires attention. A misplaced stone, a slight misalignment, a shift in rhythm. These are noted, corrected, then absorbed into the ongoing motion. As the sun descends, Relief is minimal. The ground retains heat. Air cools gradually. The mind remains attentive, though narrowed. Evenings bring no celebration, no reflection, only the body resting lightly, preparing for repetition. Sleep is functional. Dreams are sparse. The mind rests in its narrowed form, conserving energy for continuation. The plateau enforces patience, endurance, and careful allocation of energy. Each day stretches. Each movement matters. Each pause is measured. The pyramid grows slowly, almost imperceptibly, yet its weight presses upon every motion. Its presence guides rhythm and attention. You understand that survival here is not heroic. It is not rapid. It is quiet, measured, persistent. Time is both heavy and unnoticeable. Minutes stretch. Hours blend. Days merge. Yet labor continues. Breath continues. Life continues. The plateau does not reward awareness of time. It rewards consistency, efficiency, endurance. Even absence is absorbed. Workers come and go. Some never return. You do not dwell. You continue. You understand, at last, that survival is endurance without expectation. Energy preserved. Time stretched. Attention narrowed. Motion uninterrupted. And you endure. The plateau falls silent. Evening brings no triumph, no banners, no acknowledgement. You lie upon the warm stone ground. The sun has long retreated beyond the horizon. Shadows stretch into indistinct darkness. The pyramid stands. It is incomplete. It will be incomplete tomorrow. It has always been incomplete in your perception. It exists. Its weight is carried in your memory. Its presence shapes every movement you made. You think of those who have labored alongside you. Some remain. Some do not. The plateau has recorded none of it. It does not need to. Their absence is silent. Your recognition of it is quiet. You reflect, not with words, but with awareness. The endurance, the repetitions, the small adjustments, all have left traces, not in the structure alone, but in the body and mind. You notice how your hands have changed. Calloused, steady. They remember the weight of stone more than your thoughts do. Your arms carry muscle memory of thousands of lifts. Your back holds the shape of repeated bending and straightening. Your feet follow familiar paths without conscious instruction. The mind remains narrowed. It has learned to conserve attention. It has learned to observe without distraction. Yet now, lying in the cooling evening, the narrowing feels different. Not urgent, not demanding, reflective. You think of survival as it was in the plateau. It was never about heroism. It was about continuation. Quiet, measured, persistent continuation. Time, which once pressed forward sharply, now feels stretched and uneven. Minutes are heavy. Hours are weightless. Days have blended into months without explicit notice. The pyramid will grow. It will remain incomplete for years. It will endure far longer than you will. The people you worked alongside, their fates unknown, are absorbed into the ongoing rhythm of labor. Their contribution exists, uncelebrated, within the slow progress of the stones. The plateau has no memory. It never does. It does not need to. Your body, however, does remember. The fatigue, the adjustments, the careful preservation of energy. All these are stored quietly. You recognize the contrast with the world beyond the plateau. Beyond this place, life is different. Movement is less measured. Time is not heavy. Danger comes in abrupt bursts, not constant pressure. Here, danger was methodical, subtle, and omnipresent. Heat, dust, stone, thirst, all combined into a slow, relentless teacher. You reflect on endurance in its purest form, not for reward, not for recognition, simply because it was necessary. Your thoughts drift to sleep. It will arrive soon, but it will be different now. Dreams will be rare. The body rests. The mind remains partially alert, prepared for continuation. The plateau does not allow complete relaxation. It does not need to. It has imposed discipline without intention. You have obeyed, quietly, continuously. The faint wind brushes across the plateau. You hear its movement through dust and stone. It reminds you that the environment itself is the antagonist. Not sudden, not spectacular, but persistent. In this reflection, there is no heroism. There is only understanding, awareness of methodical survival. You recall the heat, the sweat, the aching muscles, the shifting stones. You recall the slow disappearance of names, faces, and familiar landmarks. You recall the narrowing of thought, the patience of waiting, the preservation of energy. All of it remains within you, quietly. The pyramid, half built and half measured, will persist. It will not speak. It will not reward. It will exist as a record of labor, endurance, and silent adaptation. And you, having been part of this endless rhythm, will carry the memory internally. A record of survival without drama, of work without completion, of life measured in repetition, adjustment, and patient observation. The night grows deeper. Stars appear. The air cools further. The plateau releases the heat of the day slowly. You close your eyes. The body sinks into fatigue. The mind rests in narrow awareness. Tomorrow, the sun will rise. The stone will wait. The rhythm will continue. And for a moment, you feel a quiet connection to all who have endured similarly. Across centuries, across unknown landscapes, humans have faced monotony, endurance, and silent instruction from the environment. Nothing was sudden. Nothing was spectacular. Everything was methodical, patient, and enduring. Sleep takes you gently. No dreams, no stories, just quiet continuation. When you awaken, the world will not have changed much. The pyramid will remain incomplete. You will resume labor. The plateau will continue to stretch time, preserve energy, and test endurance. And this, in its subtlety, is survival.